Hi everyone, welcome to the MasterCard Virtual Press Lounge here at PAY360. My name is Mark Walker and I'm the Editorial Director for the FinTech Times, a global multimedia news outlet centered around the world's first leading FinTech newspaper. It's really great to have Tony Craddock with us, Director General of Emerging Payments Association. Welcome, Tony. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. So on the rare occasion that somebody has never heard of you and doesn't know what the EPA stands for, maybe you give us a quick overview of that for us.
A quick synopsis. So we are the most influential community of passionate payments people working together to help make the world a better place through payments. We're here to make payments work for all. We've been doing this for over a decade, 140 or so members working collaboratively to help individually, help corporately, and help as a community make the world a better place.
I was going to say, most people I would imagine that are in here in this virtual lounge have hold of you. If they haven't, then they're probably in the wrong exhibition.
Yeah, quite right. Go down the road to the ceramics exhibition.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's just see, obviously, as we are here in the virtual MasterCard Press Lounge, and we're attending our first ever fully virtual conference, maybe give us a bit of an idea of how best you think visitors should sort of utilize these facilities and this opportunity.
Yeah, because what we're used to, of course, is rocking up a little bit late sometimes at a location. We've had a bit of a stressful time getting there. And when we get there, we're familiar with let's get the app, let's get the brochure, let's look around, let's wander around and kind of think about, well, what looks right for us to go to listen to. And then bumping into people as we go, having a chat, possibly sitting down before we should do to have a coffee, and then in due course, browsing. Well, of course, we can't quite do that physically, but to some extent, we can do that in the same way with our event platform here at PAY360 Virtual in 2020. And what we've tried to do is make the experience of attending this as familiar as it possibly can be, with the exception of the fact you're having to make your own coffee. So it's about wandering around, seeking out interesting things to go and listen to. We've got some extraordinarily great quality content with our event sponsor Visa showing us the way here, and we have designed and configured created a program that I think you'll find very stimulating. The good news is that if you've got to pop out and do something, you've got to maybe go off and do an errand for your other half, or maybe you've got to sneak out and get yourself a sandwich yourselves back downstairs in the kitchen, that's fine. You don't have to attend the whole event. If I were you, I'd look carefully through the event agenda, look at the things that you think are bang on mission for your particular area of interest, and make sure you're sitting at your desk comfortably. I would recommend avoid all distractions, listen through from start to finish. And the way in which I do that is I'm prepared to issue a social media comment. So I know if I'm going to make a tweet about something, I listen in much more carefully to make sure that I get the details, and then I make a comment. Whatever your particular way of doing it is, but do try and get the whole story, because these are really richly infused sessions that I think will be of great insight to you.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, actually, to maintain a bit of focus. It's quite easy, especially when you're sitting at home, to get wandering away and thinking about something else or doing some work at the other side as well.
Absolutely.
I know that obviously you guys have invested quite heavily in this new platform. I was privileged to be invited to the EPA summer party where we experienced it for the first time with those sort of little tables, little avatars. Reminded me of playing Sims when I was younger.
Oh, yes.
It was really very interesting. So I think it's going to be a really interesting experience for everybody.
Good.
Okay, so let's have a bit of a chat about I was going to say the elephant in the room, but I think we all know COVID has had a massive impact on all industries. From your point of view of the sort of like the payments industry, what do you obviously there's a bit of a difference between the initial impact and then what we've actually managed to achieve from sort of April onwards. What are your sort of thoughts there?
So initially, I think we were all rabbits in the headlights. We had no idea what was coming. We had no idea where we were going to be working. We had no idea what the impact was going to be on our individual companies or our individual roles. I think the first thing we did as a community is we commissioned some research to very, very quickly get a sense of what all this stuff means. So we published something called Weathering the Storm. And with the help of the community, we put this forward, and we kind of came up with three things. Number one, that this COVID-19 pandemic was going to be a systemic shock. This was not going to be a small thing. It was going to be a systemic shock. It was going to be having a significant impact on people and how they pay. And my word, it really, really has. You look at the digitalization of payments, increasing adoption of contactless payments, the fact that in March, 6 million people in the UK alone downloaded their mobile banking app for the first time. That's 10% of the whole population. Phenomenal change in behavior, and a sense from the initial research that actually people were going to continue to behave differently going forward. This wasn't going to be, we were going to move and then move back, we're going to move and then maybe there's going to be a new place. The second thing we found was that this was affecting the whole industry. Some were being destabilized by international remittance volumes going right through the floor in the first couple of weeks. For other organizations, getting much stronger. Didn't you hear the wonderful story of one company involved with digital identification that grew 600% in the first 3 months of this financial year? Yeah. But if we don't, if we don't respond to the challenge, we're going to be in trouble, and most people have. And the third thing is it was very clear that when you're up against it, community matters more than ever before, and that working together, listening to each other, actually asking for help, were all those things that actually made it possible for us to come up with new solutions to brand new problems that we'd never experienced before. So we had all that the first 3 or 4 months. Do you know what? I've been pleasantly surprised. No, I've been delighted with how open the industry has been to affecting the change and supporting the change. There have been a few struggles in 1 or 2 places, and sadly, one of the things that inevitably happens is some of the younger companies tend to really go out of business. One large company, as we all know, has had a very significant challenge. And if you come to the conference and listen into my session on behind the scenes with Angela, I think you'll find some interesting anecdotes and stories about what really happened. But it's been great to see the change. The question is, what now?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the key. I think, as you said, a lot of people have spoken about like sort of the increased focus on digital transformation. As you said, the move towards mobile payments. What do you think that's had an effect on the sort of speed of innovation and the change in that sort of approach?
Well, I had a lovely comment with somebody 3 weeks into this, into the COVID-19 lockdown, and they said, we're a big global company, we employ over 30,000 people. We have a very long-term planning cycle. We had a message last week from the chief executive who said, all those great things we were planning to do in 2021, we're going to do them now. So it really essentially has taken off the brakes from a whole lot of new initiatives enabled by the shortening cycle of innovation. So the velocity, the speed, the velocity of innovation has increased because when I want a chat with you, Mark, I might message you, I might WhatsApp, I might Teams you, possibly will email, and we might get a call maybe next week, but probably this week. And that would have in the past been next month or next week. And so the pace at which the circle of innovation takes place is shortening. And that to me is very, very exciting. I studied innovation at university. It was my particular favorite subject. And to see this as what was actually a bad thing, the pandemic, nobody can say it's a good thing. Well, it has got a silver lining, which is the speed at which we're innovating and able to drive new solutions to the market is shortening. And we should really make the most of that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I mean, even from ourselves, we found that actually what the technology like, video conferencing that we're using at the moment has been around for years and years and years. And it was always seen as that sort of nice to have and you had it. Even within the FinTech Times, we now have an all-team call that covers the Middle East, the Hong Kong office, the Philippines office, and the Singapore office, all at the same time, at the same place on a Thursday. And it's actually, I felt it's actually brought, the world closer together in a way, as you said. We've seen that sort of shortening of needing to wait until you can see somebody physically. And that's
completely Completely agree, and that is a personal upside for a lot of people. I've got my team are working in Cyprus and Paris and all sorts of places. I've got a holiday schedule for Spain in September. My word, maybe that was a mistake, or maybe I just go. Maybe I just go for September and stay in Spain. Who knows? I
Well,
could
yeah,
do
I
it.
can think of worse places to get stuck for a while.
That is true. That is true.
Obviously, we're here at Virtual. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but let's just finish off with talking a little bit maybe about what we see into the future. Obviously, 2020 has been not a single person would have predicted what's happened in 2020. So what are your thoughts for sort of what the back end of 2020 and into 2021 might bring us in payments?
So the consequence of this innovation is a whole lot of new solutions for new segments in new ways, which is really, really cool. We're going to see lots of exciting things in crypto, of course. We're going to see some exciting developments in central banking. We're going to see some continual growth in adoption of new digitally enabled new ways of doing things. I think the one thing we have to really be mindful about is taking people with us, and that isn't just technology Luddites in the industry who perhaps would rather pick up the phone than do a Zoom call, or because Dominic hasn't got his hair done today, he's unable to be on his video call in the background. Well, I don't mean bringing people like that with us, although that is important. I mean the vulnerable and the excluded. And the Inclusion Foundation that the EPA has been involved with setting up, led by Neil Harris, is a lovely example of how we've got to try and get those people who are vulnerable, exposed, excluded, got to bring them with us. This doesn't mean to say necessarily that we should provide them with all the cash they need, but it probably does a little bit of that. But it probably means let's help them to understand how the news services and products can really benefit them, and then bring them on board so that we're able to take everybody with us into the bright new future of enabled digital payments.
It's fantastic. I can't think of a better sentence to finish the interview on. So thank you very much for joining us, Tony. And thank you very much for joining us in the MasterCard Virtual Press Lounge here at Pay360.
Thank you very much, Mark. Much appreciated.
Thank you.